Hi everybody, Lori Gilbert with Lori Gilbert Art here. This is going to be my first video officially on my YouTube that I'm going to start. So hopefully the volume's okay. I'm going to have to adjust this as I go. But I wanted to tackle the first question about, I get a lot, is just how I got started with painting. And I have a little bit of a funny history, so I won't make this video too long, but basically, I was a big athlete. You can see if you follow my Instagram that I work out a lot. It's just part of my nature. And I had a scholarship for being a pitcher and went to school in New York. Now, I never really did much artistically. I knew I had a propensity to have design skills. If we ever did a project in school, I could tell that I had some gift for it, but I just never took much of an interest in it. So, yeah, it's kind of funny. I was just thinking that my mom always used to try to force me to take art classes, and you know how that is when you're a kid. You just rebel and think they're dumb and whatever else. So like, you got it, Mom. Should have listened. So anyways, I had a torn ACL. Buffalo, New York, opposed to Orange County, was a polar opposite as far as demographics go, weather, everything. And I made the choice to transfer after 2 years. Just it was really hard to acclimate, and just wasn't into playing softball anymore. Felt a little lost. It just wasn't resonating. So moved back home and went to school to Long Beach, and I transferred there. And you know, Canisius College was a private Jesuit school in New York, and when I transferred, all my credits didn't work, so I had to take an intro to painting class. Now at Canisius, I was a graphic design and programmer, so that was impacted at Long Beach, so I had to take studio art. And my very first class there was an intro to painting class. And I remember kicking and screaming and called my mom and told her that she got her wish that I was going to be forced to take an art class. So I still remember Linda Day was my teacher, and she took us outside. This was one of the biggest lessons I learned in art from her. Was we got a basic color palette, and I remember her showing us these trees in the distance and having us stare at them. And on one side you had the sun shining, and on the other it was dark. And she looked at the tree and said, okay, look at where the light hits, and gave us the colors that would create where that light hit. And then, you know, cadmium red and Prussian blue is still my favorite, darkest value color. I don't use black. That's the mix I use. And she had us use those colors. And after that, having the basic palette and understanding light, I just started painting after that, and I did a lot of very graphic design type of paintings. I'll post a few of those, and just self-taught myself. And the biggest thing on the emotional component is I self-identified with having a lot of depression. I felt very lonely. I was very isolated. I always felt like a lone wolf, and my brain is one of those that I always feel like I have 12 conversations going on at once, and it's all overwhelming sometimes. And when I painted, I just sat in front of that canvas, and it was the first time in my whole life that I just felt like everything stopped. I could just sit there and create, and hours would go by, and it was a feeling I just never had before. I felt it transcends being beyond happy, but it does feel happy. It's a peace. And having that silence in my heart was something that I just needed to follow. So I started painting. Eventually quit college and got a kind of random sales job, but I just started painting. And, you know, I'd post on social media something I was doing, and someone offered me $50 for it once. And I remember crying, thinking that it was the best moment of my life, that something that brought me so much happiness someone wanted to buy. And it just inspired me. And within, you know, I do believe in past lives, because within 6 months, I was doing a hyper-realistic portrait for University of Utah. Somehow came across my lap, and I remember sitting there looking at it, and I just always say yes and bite off more than I can chew and figure out how to do it later. But I remember staring at this picture of Nelson Mandela is what I was supposed to do. And I was like, God, I have no idea how I'm going to do a portrait. I've never done that before. And when I was painting, the best way to describe it is when I started painting, as soon as I kind of let go, it was like my body was remembering how to do it. And that's when, like, people call me talented. I don't take credit for it. It really feels like something's just coming through me. And if I can turn on music and turn off my brain, it's almost like an autonomic feature where my body just starts moving, and I just go to another world. And yeah, so that inspired me to just keep going. And eventually I just incrementally kept inching up my price point to a point where I quit my job and started just doing commissions. And knock on wood, I've never actually had to go out and find people for work. I believe in the divine magic of the universe, and you know, I was living paycheck to paycheck, commission to commission, and I remember barely being able to make rent and crying one night and praying and saying, you know, it's meant to do this. How come I'm struggling so much? And that night I had someone out of the blue find me on Facebook and message me and ask me for commission and send me an advance on a check and gave me more money than I was asking. And I just remember waking up and my heart was just like exploded with love and happiness, feeling like, God, I'm so protected and this is what I'm meant to do. And that feeling of feeling your purpose, no matter where it takes me, is something that I am so grateful for, especially in a time like this. I'm recording this when the COVID virus is out and about, and this is my house, you know, kind of stuck in here right now. But I get to go home and paint and escape. So anyways, that's just the basics for how I got started. And you know, all my spirituality I'll post on my Instagram, just kind of my thoughts of the day and spirituality comments, and all that kind of started happening when I was painting. You can look into meditation and how that balances your energy and be able to tune into the universe. I found that a lot of my gifts and you know, telepathic, clairvoyant stuff, it's almost like when I would paint, my head just opens up and I get all this information. And so I started developing that side of myself when I really started painting. I mean, you have to think that I was doing a painting a week for almost 5 years. I know, it's crazy. I still look back, I'm like, I don't know how I had the capacity to do that, but back's against the wall. So I was basically in forced meditation 8 to 9 hours a day for almost 5 years. So I called that my training ground. So anyways, I hope that gives you a good insight to just how I got started and a little bit about myself. So here's the first video for you. And yeah, post a comment, post some topics that you do want me to talk about. I know that whenever I share some spiritual comments, you know, people say it helps them figure out where they're at. And, you know, I'm really into energy and how we all function, and like to share the things I've learned and what I've been through. So if there's something that you do want me to discuss, let me know. I'm more than happy to help. There's nothing better than, you know, what inspired me to do these videos is that when I write and share about myself, I get comments for people who, you know, felt alone and, you know, read something I wrote and it helped them know that there's other people like them. So God, I know that feeling. It's hard. So if I could be one of those souls that you relate to, that's such a gift. So anyways, post below, and I hope that we'll talk soon.